Hello. I hope you can see me because the way the lighting is, I can hardly see you. Now, I want to let you know that over there, we're selling some GNU merchandise, buttons and metallic stickers like the one over here that say GNU/Linux inside. It supports the Free Software Foundation. And in other places, we've got stickers that you can take. They're gratis. But the software I'm talking about is not gratis necessarily. It's libre. It's free as in freedom. So basically, what is a computer? A computer is a machine that is, in principle, very simple. It gets an instruction, it executes the instruction, and it does that over and over. And you can with the right set of instructions, you can make the computer do almost anything. So who is giving the instructions to your computer? That's the question that affects ethics, that basically the political question of freedom versus power in the use of computers. That's what free software is about. Now, you might think that you're telling your computer what to do when really someone else is telling your computer what to do. And that's an injustice. You might think that the computer is mainly obeying your commands, and really it's obeying someone else, first of all, and lets you have a little bit of choice as much as suits the other who's really in control. And when that happens, your computer becomes an instrument for someone else to have power over you. The aim of the free software movement is to do something about that. So with free software, the users control the program. The other option is, well, in order for the users to control the program, they need the 4 essential freedoms. Freedom 0, well, this actually shouldn't be here. It belongs somewhere else. The other option is the program controls the users, and then typically someone else is controlling the program, so that program is a way for that someone else to control users. So freedom 0 is the freedom to run the program the way you wish for whatever purpose. And you could run it in 1 computer or 1,000 computers, because that's just running it. That's all part of freedom 0. Freedom 1 is the freedom to change the program, specifically the freedom to study the source code of the program and change it so that it runs the way you want it to run when you run it. So this includes the freedom to actually put your version into use in your computer. There are computers that are designed not to let you do that. There are some Android devices where you get the source code of the system, but you can't, and you could change the source code, but the machine won't run your changed source code. That's not freedom 1. You've got to really be able to replace the version you got with your changed version. So here's the difference between source code and executable. If all you get is the executable, you're not going to be able to figure out what this program does. To figure that out is a very hard job called reverse engineering. But if you get the source code, then if you understand programming, you can see what it does and you can change it. So free software has to come with source code. If you're not a programmer, you might think, what good does the source code do me? I'm not going to understand it. Well, there are lots of other things to do in life. Not everybody has to be a programmer. But other people using the program are programmers. So you need to be free to join a group of people that cooperate changing the program. And this group might include some programmers. Here there are 2 who are programmers and someone else who's working with them, who's part of the group but isn't writing the changes herself. But together these people adapt the program to make it do what they want. Now in this picture you'll see there are other users who are not part of the group. They just prefer to use the program on their own. When you exercise this collective control over the program, you can participate in groups with other people or not. It's up to the people who might cooperate, whether they want to. Now, collective control requires two additional essential freedoms. Freedom 2 is the freedom to make exact copies and give or sell them to others when you wish. And freedom 3 is the freedom to make copies of your modified versions and give or sell them to others when you wish. So if some users want to cooperate and they have freedom 2 and freedom 3, then they're free to cooperate. And they're also free to offer their version to others when they wish, even to the general public. Now, what happens nowadays with non-free software? Often it's malware. You've got to expect that. What kinds of nasty things do non-free programs do? Well, they spy on their users, transmitting data about the people or what they're doing. As here, they often send really nasty information. The Amazon swindle tells Amazon what page of what book is being read. If the user is foolish enough to enter any notes, the notes go to Amazon. If the user highlights anything, the highlighting goes to Amazon. Totally surveilled reading. But it goes beyond just spying. Systems are designed to stop people from doing things. One very nasty system is the Blu-ray disc, designed to restrict people. This is called DRM, Digital Restrictions Management, the malicious functionality of refusing to function. You can find our campaign against DRM in defectivebydesign.org. And, gee, how did this happen? Hope I can move it. Oh, yuck. I don't understand what's happening here. Let's see if I can get... there it is. So they can even go beyond that. There are backdoors allowing, in the software of various products, that do allow someone to remotely do nasty things to the user. In 2009, Amazon remotely deleted 2,000 copies of 1984 by George Orwell. I met somebody who said the book disappeared while he was reading it. Now, how can you get more Orwellian than this? Yes, you can, in fact. The swindle has a universal backdoor. This is known as auto upgrade. It means that Amazon can remotely change the software. So Amazon can put in any malicious functionality at any time. Amazon can literally do any nasty thing to the users of the swindle. And then sometimes they do a downgrade. Sony did this on the PlayStation 3. They provided it with two kinds of functionality. You could play games or you could install some other system. And you could do either one. And then at one point they said, here's a firmware, quote, upgrade, unquote. If you install it, you'll no longer be able to run some other system. But if you don't install it, you won't be able to talk to the Sony gaming network anymore. So pick one half of the functionality of what you bought and throw it away. By the way, Nintendo did something even worse recently. They said they remotely locked every Wii and said, agree to a nasty license agreement or it will never function again. Now, Windows has a universal backdoor too. Microsoft can forcibly install software changes to do any nasty thing to the user. Now, Gee, why is this not showing up right? Let's see if I can, it does. Gee, what curious effects. Let's see if I can, oh boy. Let's see if I can do that twice. There it is. We know that Microsoft tells the NSA about bugs in Windows before fixing them. We could call this a form of sabotage of the users. Now, why do they do these things? Well, with a non-free program, the owner has power over the users. The program is an instrument of power. And so the developer feels tempted to put in malicious features to gain further advantage over those users and make more money. So they make proprietary malware. That's what it is to use proprietary software nowadays. It wasn't always true. When I started the free software movement in 1983, proprietary software was not usually malware. It was very rare to find something malicious in a proprietary software product. It was a scandal. Proprietary software was unjust because the users didn't control it, but there's been a big change since then. The ethical standards have fallen through the floor. Now it's the normal thing to make malware. It's software for suckers. And here's why, because when they gain power over users, they can get money from that. In fact, they trick users frequently. They give users misleading privacy statements which don't show how much they'll really be spied on. They get users to agree to various kinds of mistreatment, and then they come back without reading, of course, the license, and then they come back later and said, but you said we could walk all over you. And they even go to events where they present their latest techniques for how to gain power over users and boast about it. There is no shame anymore in the proprietary software world. Was there a talk like that here? In any case, to escape from this, we needed to build a place to escape to. That's the reason for the GNU operating system. You've probably heard about the GNU/Linux system. It's the GNU system together with Linux. In 1992, the GNU system was almost finished. There was one gap. And then Torvalds liberated Linux, his kernel, which fit into the gap. And it made a complete free operating system. That's why there is now a place you can escape to. So I hope you'll join me there. But there are problems still that threaten our freedom. For instance, many websites send non-free JavaScript programs to your computer. They get installed in your browser and they run on your computer, and it doesn't try to warn you. It doesn't tell you that you're running non-free software. You might not know. You might naively think that you're in control, and you're not. Well, as a first step to deal with this problem, we've given you a way to stop running non-free JavaScript code. It's an add-on for Firefox called libre.js. It analyzes the code to see if it's trivial. Trivial code is allowed to run. It also looks for free software licenses. If it's free software, it's allowed to run. But if it's non-trivial and non-free, it gets blocked. And it warns you. And it also searches through the pages to find how to complain to the webmasters. It's very important to complain, and libre.js makes it painless and easy. Now, another way you can lose your control of your computing, which is equivalent to running a non-free program is if you send your computing to someone else's computer and it gets done there. This is SAS, Service as a Software Substitute, because it's a service that does a job that in principle you could do by running a program yourself. And when you do your computing that way, you lose control over it, because the programs that do it are running in someone else's server. And you can't control what programs run in that server. The server owner controls it, you don't. So the server owner controls your computing, and you don't. And not only that, you have to send all the input data to the server, so the server owner gets to keep it. And not only that, but it's the equivalent to a universal backdoor, because the server owner at any time could change those programs, put in some other program, and thus change the way your computing is done without asking you for permission to change it. That's equivalent to a universal backdoor. So we invite you to come to freedom, but to do it, you've got to reject those things that hurt you. What are the obstacles we have to overcome to win freedom? Well, there are these powerful companies with lots of money that they get from having power over users, and they are not going to give up their power without a fight. In addition, one obstacle is that the mainstream media don't talk about free software. In 1998, there were people in the free software community who wanted to hush up all this talk about right and wrong, justice and injustice, freedom, and things that are important. They wanted to think of things as just technical and commercial. They wanted to talk about how do you make a profit and nothing really important. So they got rid of the term free software. They like to use the term open source. Well, they were the majority of our community. And not only that, the businesses were mostly on their side, and the journalists and the politicians mostly followed them. So in the English language mainstream media, you just don't see the term free software. They talk about open source, and so when people hear about us, they think we are open source supporters. And lots of books will tell you that we're open source supporters. They're just repeating misinformation. So please, when you see that, tell people it's not true. The difference is, the free software activists say we demand freedom, and of course we do more than demand, we work to get it. The open source people, they say if you let the users change and redistribute the program, they'll improve the code quality. Well, maybe that's true, but it's a secondary issue. We mustn't forget about what really matters. Here's another obstacle. Often the specs for hardware are secret. How do we write a free driver to run a peripheral if they won't tell you how to use the peripheral? Well, we need reverse engineering for that. Now, schools have to teach free software, only free software. All educational activities must teach exclusively free software. And this is not just to save money. Saving money is a possible side benefit. This is about how to do good education instead of bad education. You see, we have to teach people to cooperate, and we have to teach people to be capable and strong. Teaching a non-free program, giving a non-free program to kids is like giving them cigarettes. And in fact, you know, cigarette companies used to hand out gratis samples because they wanted to get people addicted. And now you'll find companies giving out gratis samples to schools, saying, give these to the students, get them addicted. But the school must never do that. It's wrong for a school to teach non-free software. Now, the class also has to teach the students to share. So there's got to be a rule. If you bring a program to class, you may not keep it for yourself. You must share it with the rest of the class because this is a place where we share. And you have to share the source code too, because this class is a place where we share our knowledge. Of course, the school has to set a good example by bringing only free software to class and sharing the source code with everyone. Now, with non-free software, you can't tell what it does, which means students can't learn from it. A non-free program is the enemy of the spirit of education. Every program embodies knowledge. If the program is non-free, that is knowledge denied to the students, so they can't learn about programming. But if it's free software, they are welcome to learn. So schools must insist that their software be free so that the students who get curious and want to understand how you do a thing like this have a chance to learn. And when it isn't free, well, how do we figure out? We need to do the reverse engineering, you see, which means basically somebody's got to look at that binary very carefully and think about it to figure out what it's really doing. It's very hard work, but if you want to make a technical contribution to free software, this is the most important thing we need. Reverse engineering. Every university that teaches technical subjects should teach reverse engineering. It's a good professional career as well as being necessary for freedom. Now, today we use computers to do a lot of the things we do. And one thing we've seen is that human rights depend on each other. If you lose any human right, it becomes hard to defend the others. And nowadays, free software, having control over the software that you use, is one of the essential human rights for a free society. Sometimes this requires a small sacrifice. You may find that there's something you can't do because there isn't any free software to do it. There may be something that you can do, but it's harder work. You might have to do it the way people did it 5 years ago. Well, you can live with these sacrifices. The point is, when somebody says, I'll move to free software, as soon as you hand me a program that's 100% as capable, 100% as convenient as this proprietary program, what that person is saying is he doesn't value freedom very much. So if you value freedom, you'll make these occasional sacrifices. So how do you help? Well, you can write free software. You can organize activist groups to do things like demand free software in schools. You can lobby the schools and lobby governments to move their activities to free software. You can form a users group which helps other people, helping them move to free software. And just by saying free software, you help us. Or say it in whatever language you speak. English has a disadvantage. It has one word, free, that means zero price, and it also means with freedom. Maybe your language is better. Maybe it has a word that means free as in freedom and only that. So use that word. Don't use the English word free if you have a better word in your language. Now, for schools, we can say a little more. The educational works that we use to teach, they have to be free as well. They have to carry the same 4 freedoms for the same reasons, so that the people using these works have control over them. But what do we actually see? We see a very unfortunate mistake. There's a big movement for, quote, open, unquote, educational resources, and most of them are not free. Most of them are under a non-free license. Creative Commons non-commercial share-alike is what they often use. But because of the non-commercial limitation, these works aren't free. They can't be fully used and processed by society. So we've got to replace those. If someone invites you to participate in making a MOOC, the first thing you should say is, what's the license? And if it's not a free software license, look at gnu.org/licenses. You can see our license list there. If it's not a free license, you should say, no, I won't participate under these conditions. We have to make it free. So, for more information, look at gnu.org, in particular gnu.org/help, and fsf.org. Now it's time for the auction. This is an adorable GNU. If you want to bid, you better come up to the front because I can't see you. I'm going to, if you buy it, I can sign it for you. If you have a penguin at home, you need to get a GNU for your penguin because a penguin can't hardly function without a GNU. We can accept payment in cash with a card if you can make phone purchases with it. And we can also accept the payment in Bitcoin if you have something here to pay with. So I'm going to start with the usual price of 20 euros. Do I get 20 euros? How much? I've got, you say 25? I've got 25 euros. Do I get 30? How much? Come up and shout at me. I can't hear you. I've got 35. Do I get 40? I've got 35. Do I get 40? Come up and shout at me if you want a bit. How much? I've got 40. Do I get 45 for this adorable GNU? I've got 40. Do I get 45? How much? How much you bid? I've got 50. Do I get 55? I've got 50. Do I get 55 for this adorable GNU? How much? Come up, come up. I got 55. Do I get 60? I've got 60. Do I get 65? I've got 60. Do I get 65 for this adorable GNU? 65 to the Free Software Foundation to defend freedom. 65. Do I get 70? I've got 65. Do I get 70? Do I get 70 for this adorable GNU? I've got 70. Do I get 75 for this adorable GNU? I've got 70. Do I get 75? 75. Do I get 80? I've got 75. Do I get 80 for this adorable GNU? 80 to the Free Software Foundation to defend freedom. Do I get... How much? I've got 80. Do I get 85? I've got 80. Do I get 85? How much? I've got 100. Do I get 110? I've got 100. Do I get 110? 110 for this adorable GNU. Last chance. How much? I got 110. Do I get 120? 120 for this adorable GNU. Last chance to bid 120 or more. I got 120. Do I get 130? Do I get 130? Last chance to bid 130 or more for this adorable GNU. Last 130. Do I get 140? I've got 130. Do I get 140? 140 for this adorable GNU. Last chance. Going. Gone for 130. We'll take care of it when I'm done. I've got about a minute and a half. I want to let you know you can join the Free Software Foundation. You can do it at fsf.org, or you can do it by coming up to me if you want to pay your dues in cash. When I'm done, you can come up to me and do it. There's no time for me to answer questions here, but I can answer a few after my talk is done. But you've got to organize for freedom. If you don't want to be massively surveilled, you've got to refuse to use the systems that surveil you. If you carry a mobile phone, it's telling Big Brother where you are all the time. And it has a universal backdoor. The software can be remotely converted into a listening device that listens all the time, even when it looks like it's off. A mobile phone is actually Stalin's dream, which is why I don't have one. I'm not willing to let someone follow me and listen to me all the time, no matter how convenient it might be. And remember, everybody lived without mobile phones 25 years ago. We overestimate the difficulty of making certain kinds of sacrifices or resisting pressure. Don't be used of Facebook. So now I've got to stop.